Okay, good afternoon. Convening our Tuesday, March 1st agenda of the House Consumer Protection and Commerce Committee. Welcome to everyone who is here. My thanks to you. If this is your first time in the House Consumer Protection and Commerce Committee, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules to help facilitate today's proceedings. One, if you can ensure that your name on your Zoom profile reflects your testimony, the name you submitted your testimony under, that will help us spotlight you better. And identify you a little bit easier. If you can remain muted until you're called upon, that is also helpful for today. And once called upon, if you can unmute yourself to testify, that would be terrific. We also try to ask folks to keep to a 2-minute time limit. Once you get to 2 minutes, I'll gently ask you to start to sum up your testimony. This helps us get through our many bills as well as meet many of the looming deadlines that we have to keep these important measures alive. Lastly, I just asked for everyone's cooperation and help in ensuring that we promote helpful dialogue that is filled with aloha, irrespective of how what our perspectives may be on the various issues. And everyone's done a fantastic job of this in all of our CPC proceedings. But again, I continue to believe Hawaii leads the way in my mind of ensuring civil discourse, which I think the rest of the country could probably benefit from everyone's example here. So my thanks in advance for everyone helping to perpetuate that as a norm of civil discourse. With that, we'll go ahead and start on our agenda. First off, we have HB 1817 relating to public accommodation, and this requires shopping centers having 15 or more retail tenants to have no less than one publicly available restroom. First off, we have the Civil Rights Commission offering comments.
The Civil Rights Commission, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. The Hawaii Civil Rights Commission stands on its written comments, and we're available for questions, but noting that if this is passed, the new requirement should not be placed in HRS Chapter 489 for the reasons set forth in our testimony regarding the limitation we would have regarding enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. We also have individual testimony and support from Charlie St. Sure, who is not here. Members, please note we have additional supportive testimony provided by various individuals on HB 1817. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in HB 1817 who I have not called? Okay, seeing no further testifiers, members, any questions? Okay, seeing no questions by the committee, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, HB 1991. This is relating to consumer protection. In this measure, it states that in counties with a population of 500,000 or more, it prohibits the sale of a bicycle that is reported as stolen and is listed on a publicly available online stolen item database, and requires the county police departments to establish the publicly available online stolen item database. For HB 1991, we have the Department of the Attorney General offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Johansson, Vice Chair Kitagawa, Deputy Attorney General Adrian Dakwa on behalf of the Department of the Attorney General. We did submit written testimony. Would emphasize, as written now, it'd be very difficult to prove the sale of a stolen bicycle beyond a reasonable doubt. We have offered suggestions as how to make it easier, which would help achieve the goals of deterring bicycle theft and consumer protection. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. We also have late testimony and support from the Honolulu Police Department.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Good? Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. As I mentioned in our written testimony, we were kind of able to meet with some of the stakeholders prior to today's hearing, and we did kind of offer some proposed language that we would request get included in perhaps an HD2 to at least further the conversation and allow this bill to pass over to the Senate, where we can continue to collaborate with the pawnbrokers. In addition to the bicycle section, which pretty much remains unchanged in our proposed language with the addition of the Attorney General's comments, we were able to meet with, like I said, the Pawnbrokers Association and Mr. Dan, who I probably already testified before I got on, and worked out some of their concerns. So As I mentioned, we're definitely in support of the bill and looking forward to continue the collaboration, and just ask that you keep the bill alive, move it along so that we can continue the final version that we can all, I think, live with. But thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much, Major. Members, that's the extent of individuals who have indicated that they would be testifying virtually. Please also note that we have individuals as well as businesses offering their supportive testimony on this measure. Is there anyone wishing to testify in HB 1991?
Yes, my name is Richard Dan. I'd like to testify.
We'll go ahead with you, Mr. Dan, first, and then you next, Mr. Spiker. My apologies for missing you folks. Please go ahead, Mr. Dan.
My name is Richard Dan. I'm in full support of this bill as written. There was a conversation with Major Moskowitz, who is fantastic, and came to some agreements with the Pawnbroker Association and myself. On the House side, the companion bill 2646, they wanted to go back to the HR number 154, which is a resolution. So all the stakeholders meet together or meet in some way, shape, or form. At this point in time, Major Moskowitz, who's done a fantastic job, got together with the pawnbrokers and I believe got together with some of the service providers. My big issue with what we all agree to is that there's not one program for the state, rather than each island will have its own separate program for reporting. But I agree with Major Moskowitz. Please keep this moving along. The bill as written is fine by me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. We also have Jonathan Spiker.
Good afternoon, Chair Johansson, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and committee members. I'm Jonathan Spiker on behalf of the Hawaii Pawnbrokers Association. We do support this bill in its current form, but I just want to add to Major Moskowitz's testimony that there was a meeting between the Hawaii Pawnbrokers Association and the Honolulu Police Department, and a version of this bill was formulated and drafted, which I actually attached to my testimony as well. And all affected members of the Hawaii Pawnbrokers Association, the pawnbrokers in the city and county of Honolulu, as well as the police department, we are in support of that revised and proposed version of the bill, which the major did say he had submitted through Representative Martin, and which I have attached to my written testimony as well. So I would respectfully ask if the committee could take a look at that proposed language and revisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in HB 1991? Okay, seeing no further testifiers, members, any questions on this measure? Okay, seeing no questions on HB 1991, then we'll move on to our next agenda item. HB 2340 relating to controlled substances. This allows for the use of a post office box number for purposes of a prescription delivery, so long as the physical location where an individual resides is on file with the dispensing pharmacy. On HB 2340, we have the Board of Pharmacy offering comments.
Good morning, Chair Johansson and members of the committee. I am James Gizuski, Executive Officer of the Board of Pharmacy, here to stand on our written testimony and support. And we're here to answer any questions if there are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. We also have Kaiser Permanente in support. Either John Kiramitsu or Jonathan Ching from Kaiser Permanente in support. Okay. Although we can see your profile, I guess you're not here. Members, for the record, Kaiser Permanente is in support. That's the extent of individuals or organizations indicating that they would be present to virtually testify. Members, any questions on HB 2340? Okay, seeing no questions on HB 2340, then we'll go on to our next agenda item, HB 2405. This is relating to insurance. And it permits health insurers, mutual benefit societies, and health maintenance organizations to consider gender transition treatments medically necessary if the policy covers a treatment for purposes other than gender transition, requires health insurers, mutual benefit societies, and health maintenance organizations to provide applicants and insured persons with clear information about the coverage of a gender transition services, including the process for appealing a claim denied on the basis of medical necessity. On HB 2405, we have DCCA Insurance Division, Commissioner Hayashida or Ian Robertson, offering comments.
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. The Insurance Division stands on its written testimony, offering comments, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Next, we have John Kirimitsu with Kaiser Permanente offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Johansson, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and committee members. Thank you, John Kirimitsu for Kaiser. Kaiser will stand on this testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We also have Lindsay Garcia with the Hawaii Medical Service Association in opposition.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Lindsay Garcia for HMSA. HMSA stands on our testimony offering comments and supports the ongoing discussion on this issue. I'm available for any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We also have Amanda Fernandez with the Hawaii Public Health Institute in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Amanda Fernandez on behalf of Hawaii Public Health Institute. I'll largely stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. We believe it will definitely improve health outcomes here in Hawaii, and that's why we support it. I also wanted to say that we support the proposed amendments that have been put forward by other advocates and advocacy groups such as H3RC in their testimony, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have Michael Galoyo Jr. with the Stonewall Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. I guess he's not here. Next, we have Jen Jenkins in support.
Aloha, Chair Johansson, Vice Chair Kitagawa, and honorable committee members. My name is Jen Jenkins, and I'm testifying in strong support of the intent of HB 2405 HD1. First, I want to mahalo Chair Johansson for introducing this bill and the many members of the House who co-sponsored such an important measure, which clarifies protections for transgender access to life-saving healthcare. Second, I've included amendments in my written testimony to have the bill prohibit categorical denials of gender-affirming care. Please pass this bill with the amendments to make sure insurers in Hawaii base their policies and practices on the majority of medical opinion, not their own personal and financial bias. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Jen. We also have Madeline Cespasara in support. Not here. Brianna Zoe in support.
Hi there, I'm here. Thank you very much for the opportunity for the 2 minutes. And I'd like to echo what Jen said. Thank you so much, Chair Johansson and everybody else for introducing and supporting this bill. It actually means a whole lot to me personally that there's good people out there who want to help put an end to this, all the nonsense that's happening with respect to transgender healthcare and the insurance companies doing the wrong thing. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. But getting into things, I'll keep it short and sweet. My testimony is out there. Hopefully you get a chance to take a look at it if you haven't already. I really just wanted to echo that everything this bill stands for and is trying to accomplish is common sense. All of the healthcare that people like me have been getting denied for years, it's recognized as medically necessary all over the world. One great example is breast augmentation for a trans woman. About 85% of Blue Cross Blue Shield plans on the mainland cover it routinely, but somehow here in Hawaii, my insurance company, HMSA, doesn't. I think it's kind of telling that the companies here in Hawaii they don't get it, for lack of a better way to put it. They don't understand, they're not getting it right. And this bill really helps to clarify things and put an end to that stuff. And I only wanted to share one thing because I'm getting exhausted of sharing all my personal stories time and time again, even though it's important. But when people say this legislation enacts access to trans healthcare coverage saves lives. It's true, because of my insurance company last year and all the horrible things that happened to me, I ultimately won my coverage and got approved for everything. So that's great, but it wasn't without the fight of a lifetime. Everything that I've had to go through, the denials I've had to face, everything, it led me to the brink of suicide. And I hate having to say I was there. But once I started getting access to my healthcare and getting my services covered, I'm living my best life and things have never been better. I want nobody else to be in that situation I was in. There's no reason why anybody should be in those situations, getting denied for their life-saving healthcare. So I just want to say thank you again for all of your support. If anyone has any questions for me, always feel free to reach out to me, whether now or later. I love questions. Happy to share my experiences, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Brianna. We also have Kalani Bright in support.
Hi, Kalani's here. I think she's getting set up with her audio. Sorry.
I can see.
My testimony, I am able to despite this, mahalo for being given the chance to testify. I just had an insurance denied voice surgery 4 hours ago and cannot speak but wish to testify. Despite this, after my testimony, I am able to respond to questions via text to speech, especially after statements from HMSA, Kaiser, or the insurance commissioner who I believe are causing harm. I am hoping to be given extra time under the American with Disabilities Act to come my testimony to have to explain this. I will still be short.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Providing testimony in this video form. Hello, my name is Kalani Bright. I will be providing testimony in this video form because as of the testimony time tomorrow, I will have undergone a voice procedure to feminize my voice. I'm here in Portland, Oregon with James Thomas. I had previously requested for and got denied for voice surgery. I actually even did a recent disclosure request asking HMSA to show the scientific evidence that voice alteration surgery is not shown to improve health outcomes, and it could not provide me with any documents to back up the claims. Dr. Thomas this year has had numerous research studies over long periods of time showing the health outcomes of voice alteration surgery, as well as just transgender surgeries in general benefiting the patient. Is there anything you'd like to share with us?
I think in regard to what you brought up, there are a number of studies that various kinds of laryngeal surgery do impact the voice, besides my own personal feedback from patients that they do. In fact, I think from an anecdotal viewpoint, patients who tell me once they've completed the voice transition, they no longer even think of themselves as transgender. They are women, so they are able to go about their lives without thinking every moment about what they were born with. From the health utilities outcome standpoint, I think I'd like to defer to the first author, Dr. Nguyen. We put together a study on health outcomes, and there very definitely is a significant impact on health outcomes. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Dr. Brian Nguyen, with my mentor, Dr. James Thomas, as well as some researchers at Stanford University. We studied serving 200 general adult Americans, asking them if they're put themselves in a hypothetical situation of having a voice that did not match their gender. And the majority of these general adult Americans identified as cisgender, and the vast majority of them identified as heterosexual. When we asked them to put themselves in these hypothetical states and fill out validated health utility surveys, our results found that having a voice that did not match their gender was the same disease severity as having one eye blind. And this, the severity of this disease burden, when we surveyed these healthy general adult Americans who did not identify as trans, the responses among Democrats and Republicans did not differ. You can find this research study published in the 2021, one of the 2021 editions of the International Journal for Transgender Health. The impact of gender surgery on utility outcomes. If you have any questions, feel free to defer to Dr. Thomas or I, or any of our Stanford researcher colleagues for any of our research.
thank you for allowing the testimony here today. As a trans woman, I've been continually discriminated and denied gender affirming surgeries under both HMSA and Kaiser and the state. We need stronger protections that state the medical necessity, that those provisions should not be removed from this bill. The medical necessity part is the part that has been denied since Act 135. This is not a health mandate. This is strengthening anti-discrimination laws that insurers currently do not abide by. Thank you for allowing my testimony.
Thank you very much, Kalani. We appreciate it. We also have, I believe that's the extent of individuals or organizations that said they would be present to testify virtually. Members, please note we have numerous testimonies in support as well as offering comments from individuals and organizations on HB 2405. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in HB 2405?
Excuse me, Chair. I think Madeline Sesepasar is trying to get in the room.
Oh, okay. Let's take a quick recess. Reconvening our 1 p.m. agenda after that brief recess. Again, I'll double check. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in HB 2405? Okay, seeing no further testifiers, then members, any questions on HB 2405? Okay, seeing no questions, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, HB 2007. This is relating to procurement. This amends the cash or protest bond amount for parties initiating administrative proceedings for review of certain protest decisions. On HB 2007, we have State Procurement Office offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Bonnie Kahakoi, Acting Administrator for the State Procurement Office. We stand on our written comments and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. We also have General Contractors Association of Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Johansson, Vice Chair Kitagawa. The GCA is in support of this measure, but we ask that the measure be amended to conform with other states' procurement codes. Last year, the legislature enacted legislation that requires a party protesting an agency decision to put up a 1% cash or protest bond without a cap. Previously, there was a $10,000 cap on the amount of the cash or protest bond required. So the purpose of the cash protest bond is to prevent the filing of frivolous appeals by ensuring that people put some skin in the game. And the purpose of the cap is to ensure that the cash or bond requirements did not actually deter legitimate appeals of large expensive projects. However, the $10,000 cap was determined to be too low, so the legislature looked at how other states handled the cash bond requirement last session. However, we believe the legislature inadvertently left out safeguard language that the other states who require cash protest bonds use without a cap for appeals to also prevent the chilling effect of deterring legitimate protests on large projects. So the safeguard language that the other states use allows for the return of the bond minus administrative costs associated with the hearing, unless the appeal is found to be frivolous or in bad faith. So there are two ways to prevent the chilling effect of deterring legitimate appeals on large projects. One, you can have the bond capped, which this measure currently does, or you can allow for the return of the bond minus the admin cost, unless the appeal is found to be in frivolous or in bad faith. So since Hawaii adopted language that the other states used last year, we believe that the measure should be amended to include the accompanying safeguard language as well. So I want to emphasize that as of last year, Hawaii is now the only state that requires a bond that doesn't include safeguard language to prevent deterring legitimate protests on agency decisions for large projects. And these are projects that my members feel are of $10 million or more. This is an ethics bill. So essentially the effect of the removal of the bond cap provision last year without adopting other safeguard language is that it prevents bidders from appealing an agency's bid protest decision on large projects because it raises the cost of the appeal so high that it becomes unaffordable and no longer fiscally prudent. So this altered the landscape of the procurement code by reducing one of the checks and balances. This removed any realistic oversight of decisions on large projects and allows agencies to go unchecked. So given the current climate, we think this is a no-brainer that helps restore public trust in government. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. We also have the Airline Committee of Hawaii in opposition.
Hi, afternoon, Chair Johansson, Vice Chair Kitagawa, Mingo testifying on behalf of the Airlines Committee of Hawaii. This measure essentially reverses the law passed by the legislature last year. The basis for our opposition are the same reasons outlined in the final committee report, in that the timely review and resolution of bid protests reduces the cost and facilitates the execution of state-awarded projects, especially contracts on major construction and other crucial infrastructure enhancements. It also found that the cash or protest bond amount for a party initiating an administrative proceeding for review under the procurement code is too low for public works projects. Given that the law was enacted 8 months ago, we asked the committee to hold this measure and let the law play out. I think at the result of next year or the year after, we can definitely see statistical information. So we ask that the committee hold this measure. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you, Myung. Members, please note that's the extent of organizations or individuals noting that they will be present virtually to testify. We also have opposition from the Department of Transportation. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in HB 2007? Seeing no further testifiers, members, any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, then we'll move on to our last agenda item, HB 1903, relating to data about snorkels and masks. And this requires first responders to record in the incident report for each water rescue event the type of snorkel and mask, if any, worn by the person who was rescued or recovered. On HB 1903, we have the Department of Health with comments.
Yes, sir. This is Dr. Al Bronstein from the EMS Department of Health, and the department stands on the written comments. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bronstein. We also have Andrea Losby in support.
Hi, yes, thank you. Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to testify today or provide testimony today. My name is Andrea Losby, and I strongly support House Bill 1903. This bill was introduced, in honor of my dad, who died due to using a full face snorkel mask at Chang's Beach just this last December in Maui. There were over 100 first responders involved in the 80-hour search for my father, many of whom I had extensive conversations with. Every first responder I spoke with expressed serious concerns about full face snorkel masks and shared numerous horror stories similar to my dad's. Once the search for my father concluded, I wanted to know how many people have died using full face snorkel masks versus standard snorkels and masks in Hawaii. But I was told that the data is not currently collected in a consistent manner or currently available for analysis. Collecting this data is crucial to analyzing and responding to the risk related to specific snorkeling equipment. Please vote to pass this bill, including the funding necessary for data collection so that data-driven change can be taken to avoid other families from experiencing the pain, and unfortunately, many other families have. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Andrea. We also have Matthew Spear in support. who is not here. I believe that's the extent of testifiers on this measure indicating they'd be virtually present. Members, please note that we do have numerous testimony by individuals in support on this particular measure. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on HB 1903? Seeing no further testifiers, members, any questions on HB 1903? Okay, seeing no questions, then we'll recess for decision making. Recess. Reconvening for decision-making on our 1 p.m. agenda of the House Consumer Protection and Commerce Committee meeting. First, on HB 1817, members relating to public accommodations. I personally am very sympathetic to this bill, as I have found this to often be frustrating when I myself find this in this situation. However, I do think noting the Civil Rights Commission's testimony and their inability or their being precluded from offering any relief to address this, and it not necessarily being well suited to the public accommodation statute. My recommendation for now is going to be to defer this measure, although again, I am personally sympathetic to it because I'm just not sure what statute to put it in at this point. So unfortunately on HB 1817, the recommendation is to defer. Next on HB 1991, I appreciate the work of the author as well as the Honolulu Police Department and the pawnbrokers. However, I don't have prior concurrence to make many of the requested changes, and as they are substantial, I definitely would want prior concurrence from the Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs in order to make those. So although I won't be adopting the suggested amendments as they are lengthy, I am happy to note them in the committee report, and I think this will be helpful as the bill continues to advance to the Senate for discussion purposes. At least you'll have a draft. So the recommendation on HB 1991 is to pass with technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any comments or questions on the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 1991 HD1 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Aquino.
Aye.
Representative Har.
Aye.
Representative Hashem. Representative Kong is excused. Representative Mizuno.
Aye.
Representative Morikawa. Aye. Representative Onishi.
Aye.
Representative Tarnas.
Aye.
Representative Matsumoto.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next on HB 2340, relating to controlled substances, the recommendation here is going to be to pass with technical non-substantive amendments. Any comments or questions on the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote, please.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 2340 HD1 with amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Kong, who will be noted excused for the rest of this agenda. Are there any reservations? Any no's? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, members, on HB 2405 relating to insurance. On this, members, I'll beg your indulgence as I go through some of the amendments that I'd like to make. I think, one, I want to say, I think it's a really important measure to ensure equity and non-discrimination. And I agree with all parties, and I'm grateful that I think there seems to be a coalescing of many of the interested stakeholders, whether on the insurer side or the advocate side. And I agree that there are certain issues remaining that we need to hone and refine in terms of language, especially around medical necessity. So I appreciate all the work to help advance this discussion and important policy forward. And as an overview, I'll largely be adopting many of the amendments suggested by the advocates that can be found in the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center's testimony, as well as Jen Jenkins or Madeline Cespasara's testimony. It's noted in multiple places, members. And they include, so I'll go slow so that we can take it all in. On HB 2405, the first amendment will be to replace page 4, lines 11 through 21, and page 5, lines 1 through 18, as well as page 9, lines 5 through 21, and page 10, lines 1 through 2. This is sort of the, as an overview, this is where I think there continued to be some confusion and dispute between the parties as to how it pertained to medical necessity. So replacing those with the following: a health carrier may not apply categorical cosmetic or blanket exclusions to gender affirming care when prescribed as medically necessary gender affirming treatment, A health carrier may not categorically exclude as cosmetic services facial feminization surgeries and other facial gender affirming treatments, such as tracheal shaves, hair electrolysis, and other care such as mastectomies, breast reductions, breast implants, electrolysis, or laser hair removal, voice surgeries and therapies, smoking cessation, or any combination of gender affirming procedures, including revisions to prior treatment. I'd also like to insert a new section before the definition section on page 6 and 10 that reads, nothing in this section may be construed to mandate coverage of a service that is not medically necessary. Again, trying to underscore medical necessity as an important precursor to treatment. And then lastly, inserting a provision that says this act shall be known and cited as the Gender Affirming Treatment Act. In addition to those suggested amendments, I would also like to make technical and non-substantive amendments. I do want to just thank the work of the advocates for helping to suggest some of these amendments and to better clarify achieving the goal of this legislation, as well as navigating the complex foundational insurance issues. Those are the suggested amendments and recommendations. Members, any comments or questions on the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, then Vice Chair for the vote, please.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 2405 HD1 with amendments. Are there any reservations? Are there any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Next on HB 2007, relating to procurement, the recommendation here will be to adopt GCA suggested amendment. I will note in the committee report that the committee is interested in ensuring that we find the right balance between discouraging frivolous protests, but also ensuring legitimate appeal rights. I think this bill still has a long way to go, but the suggested amendments made by GCA as it relates to what happens to the bond after proceedings, I think is an interesting discussion to have. Let's see. So in addition, just GCA's amendment to HB 2007. Members, any comments or questions on the recommendation?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Har.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for the recommendation. And I do like the amendments that were offered by GCA. That said, I do think this bill is a bit premature at this time. I was really moved by the testimony of the State Procurement Office. And so accordingly, respectfully, I'll be voting with reservations.
Thank you, Representative Har. And duly noted, I think we may need some more time to see if this changes should be made. Members, any other comments or questions on the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, then Vice Chair for the vote, please.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 2007 HD1 with amendments, noting the reservations of Representative Har. Are there any additional reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. And lastly, members, on HB 1903 relating to data about snorkels and masks, the recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Members, any comments or questions on the recommendation? Okay, seeing none, then Vice Chair for the vote, please.
The recommendation of the chair is to pass HB 1903 HD1 as is. Are there any reservations? Any noes? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, and thank you, members. And before we close, I just wanted to thank all of our testifiers for their truly heartfelt testimony on these issues and for providing a face to sometimes what are very complex issues. So thank you very much, everyone, for participating in today's hearing. With that, this hearing is adjourned.